Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Grand Theft Auto 5 video, we're going to be talking about the Doomsday Heist being the final DLC for Grand Theft Auto Online. Is at the end of online updates. That's what we're going to be discussing today. So right off the bat, let's take a look at some of the more obvious things that kind of might give away the fact that yes, indeed, this is the last update. So if the title of this update doesn't signal it enough, it's called the Doomsday Heist. I don't know what about Doomsday doesn't scream the end of the world, the end of everything, but it just kind of has this vibe like it's gonna be the last update in online. I mean, if you think about it, our characters have been gradually building themselves up, starting with Heist in 2015, getting various forms of businesses throughout 2016 and 2017, and now at the very end of 2017 and moving into 2018, we get the Doomsday Heist, which Rockstar describes we literally have to save San Andreas from total annihilation. So that, to me, in and of its own, sounds like it's the end of online. Like, how could you go any further than this? This really, truly does sound like the grand finale. Now, we'll come back to that in a little bit, but something that was pretty interesting comes from FunMW2. He said, 2 years ago, I posted this in the single-player DLC thread. Jetpacks are coming, and Clifford, which I thought was a new city or a town, is the supercomputer name. Cut content, which was planned for the single-player DLC, are used for online DLCs. So let's take a look at that post FunMW2 made. He said, the Jetpack task native is still there with the Jetpack line. We might get a new city added to North Yankton, Clifford, 34 missions triggered for single-player DLC missions, 12 assassination missions, 23 unknown missions, and a bunch of other things regarding the single-player DLC. Now, when he made that post on May 10th, 2015, a lot of people were assuming, hey, that's the long-lost single-player DLC. Well, obviously, we know the single-player update hasn't come out, and apparently Rockstar are just using a bunch of cut content that they never implemented in single-player and are now throwing into online. FunMW2 replies to someone that said, coincidence, by saying, not really. Most of the content that came out with Heist were planned for single-player DLC, Agent 14, the whole IAA lore, etc. Now, this is further content that was planned for single-player DLC as well. So what's crazy is if this is the final DLC, Rockstar are pretty much doing it with content that they've already made and had planned to introduce in single-player, which means none of this is technically new. It kind of makes you wonder how much of Rockstar's priority right now is focusing on Red Dead Redemption 2 and other projects like future games and maybe even another GTA. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be asking questions like, what happened to the apparent Hipsters 2 update? Well, according to Mach1 Buddy says, fun fact, I was told Hipsters 2 was going to be the last DLC, and that was about 3 months ago. Okay, so that is pretty interesting as well. Now, he also goes on to say they were working on Hipsters 2 at least 5 months ago, so there is a potential that they actually merged this DLC with Hipsters Part 2. Because we have seen at least one instance of a potential Hipsters-esque car, and that is the Deluxo, the DeLorean. Maybe they were just going to have it a normal version, and then when they decided to merge it with the Doomsday Heist, they made it into the flying and missile launching one. So that's always a possibility there, and who knows what other sort of content we will end up seeing in this DLC. And who knows, maybe there's a chance that the Doomsday Heist is not the final DLC, but instead Hipsters 2 is, and we see that sometime in 2018, like in March or May or April before the release of Red Dead Redemption 2. But I just don't think that makes sense. Why would you have this super grand finale-esque update and then just release something that would be a little less exciting, at least for some players, after that? Now, one thing I think is pretty interesting is the fact that I think Ron Jakowski from the story mode might have actually teased this DLC in one of his podcasts. So you guys know he had a podcast that actually came out with Smuggler's Run. You can listen to it on Blaine County Radio. Well, he mentioned Doomsday in his radio show in Smuggler's Run. Now, when I was listening to that, I thought he was originally referring to, the end of the world, like it was just a parody for his show, but it might actually be a teaser to the end of Grand Theft Auto Online. And now that we have a Doomsday DLC, this is probably the final major DLC for Grand Theft Auto Online. That is going to be my prediction, that this will be the last big update for online. Now, this does not mean it will be the last addition to new content in online, because Rockstar considers every adversary mode and every cosmetic thing and update into the game to be considered new content. So there's always a chance that Rockstar could add maybe more vehicles, more adversary modes, future holiday expansions in 2018. But I do believe that this will be the final big update in online and the end of massive expansions as we know them for online. I mean, everything just seems to make sense. It's the Doomsday Heist. It's occurring at the end of the year. It's a couple months before the release of one of their next big titles, Red Dead Redemption 2. Everything lines up nicely for this to be the last DLC in online, ending as our characters save San Andreas from total annihilation. However, the only thing that doesn't make sense is a Rockstar employee actually coming out and saying that that's not the case. They stated that they were going to be continuing content even after the release of Red Dead Redemption 2. But then that begs the question, what does Rockstar consider new content? I mean, they could make a DLC that has one adversary mode, and that would be considered new content. Or they could do something along the lines of Cunning Stunt Special Vehicle Circuit, a DLC that many people really didn't consider to be all that major, when in fact it only added 4 cars and just some stunt tracks for vehicles that we've already had in the game for a couple months now. So that's what I think is going to be the case. And this is my final prediction, and I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section down below as well. I think the Doomsday Heist will be the last big DLC in online. Is it going to be the final time we see Rockstar update online? Of course not. There's going to be drip feeding that's done. There's going to be the Festive Surprise 2018. And I do believe there will be future smaller updates in 2018. For example, they could do an update based around Valentine's Day. They could do something right before Red Dead Redemption 2. And they might do something like Hipsters Part 2. And it might not have any business aspect to it. It might literally just be cars, clothing, weapons, etc., which I do think would be pretty cool. But as far as the last major expansion with, cutscenes and missions and a major objective, yeah, I do think that the Doomsday Heist is the final one. I hope I'm wrong, but there's just a lot of compelling evidence here that I've already touched on in the video that does suggest this is actually going to be the case. Now, we did receive a really interesting comment from Yan regarding this. Now, to give you guys a little bit of backstory, he was the one who said that the update was going to be Hipsters Part 2 originally. Then at kind of the last minute, changed his mind, giving us a riddle saying that it's kind of delayed. So maybe that does give us some light that this might not be the final DLC. But he responded to someone that said, with regards to Yan, I doubt there's much he knows if the last he knew is it's Hipsters 2 and then it's delayed. He said, well, to be honest, I had a slight idea of this update, but it was way too vague to share publicly. And what's pretty crazy is all the contents of this update, for the most part, were right under our nose. Things that we had known about for a little bit, like the Clifford supercomputer, which is a total parody of Siri, by the way, if you hadn't caught on to that. Using Agent 14 again, using Lester. It's essentially the same heist crew following the IAA storyline. So it was right under our nose. No one just knew what to expect. We were all kind of led down that Hipsters 2 trail. But it still begs the question, is that update still going to be coming out? And as I mentioned earlier, and I definitely don't want this to be overlooked, the fact that they are making this update primarily out of single-player recycled stuff that we're getting years later, to me is another indication that they are focusing on wanting to still make updates for online, but their priorities are definitely in other places, getting ramped up for Red Dead Redemption 2 and the projects they're likely building beyond that. So what I want to do is hear from you guys in the comments section down below. Let me know what you think is going to happen with the Doomsday Heist DLC. Do you think it's the final big update for online? Do you think it's the final update in general for online, and the drip feeding that we're going to be getting into 2018 will be all that we receive for Grand Theft Auto Online? Or do you think Rockstar has other big DLCs still planned, like a full-blown Hipsters Part 2 waiting for us, or even something different in 2018? Let me know your thoughts, opinions, and more in the comment section down below. If you guys did go to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And also, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new, or you like daily GTA 5 videos like this. With all the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching, take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.